Hello and welcome to Gun Dog Nation. This is Kenneth DeWitt coming to you from Texas, and I want you to know that Gun Dog Nation is much more than a podcast. It's a movement to unite those who love to watch a well-trained dog do what it was bred to do. We are also here to encourage youth to get involved in the sport of gun dogs, whether it's hunting, sport, or competition. I want to build a community of people united to preserve our heritage of gun dog ownership and to be better gun dog owners. Stay tuned to each episode to learn more about training, dog health, wellness, and nutrition from expert trainers, breeders, and veterinarians. Be sure to go on our website, www.gundognation.net, and join our email list. You will receive newsletters from trainers and vets and breeders that will also help you being a better gun dog owner. And be sure to listen to some of our supporters, Mo Pitney, who is a very good country musician and bluegrass musician. He has a bluegrass project called Pitney Myers, and he's getting ready to come out with a new album on Curb Records, so stay tuned. Also, the music provided on our show is from Sean Brock, originally from Harlan, Kentucky, just across the mountain from me. He did all the music that you hear on our introduction and our outro for the show. Played all the instruments except for Scott Vessel on the banjo and Jerry Douglas on the dobro. Check them out. Thank you for listening. Hello, this is Kenneth Witt with Gun Dog Nation. Many people quickly become frustrated and confused when training the retriever. Cornerstone Gun Dog Academy's online courses eliminate all the guesswork by giving you a proven training system that will help you train a dog that anyone would be proud to have in their blind. Learn where to start, what to do next, and what to do when problems arise. Visit cornerstonegundogacademy.com to learn how you can train your retriever. I have used this method myself. I have been through it a couple times with different dogs. I refer back to it lots of times when I'm trying to get dogs freshened back up for hunt test season. I highly recommend them. I have actually been a subscribed member of Cornerstone Gun Dog Academy since 2016, and I would suggest anyone use it. I highly recommend it. They have an app that you can get to on your phone. You can do it from your phone, your laptop. You can't get any more convenient than that. I've used it. It's proven and tried, and I know literally hundreds of people that have done the same thing that I've talked to. Visit cornerstonegundogacademy.com and learn how to train your own retriever. Hello, welcome to Gun Dog Nation. This is Kenneth Witt, and I'm here from Fort McCavitt, Texas, and I'm talking to another fellow Texan. Actually, I shouldn't say that. I'm not a fellow Texan. I'm a Kentuckian who's lived in Texas for 13 years, so I guess I've kind of, been adopted in. But however, I'm with a true Texan here who has a really, really reputable name in this state as a dog trainer, and not just this state, in the world of SRS and the world of field trials all over the U.S. I've been tracking this guy down for months. You know it, Luke. But I'm going to introduce and I'm proud to have you on here, brother, Mr. Luke Cour.
How's it going? I'm glad to be here.
Thank you. Luke, tell everybody where you're from and where you are now.
I'm from the Georgetown, Texas area, just north of Austin. And now I'm currently located, our new facility is located in a little town of Ledbetter, Texas, which is out by Lake Somerville in between the Brenham and Giddings area.
Now, Luke, you're way too young to remember this, but there was a really hilarious comedian back from Mississippi back in my age in the 80s named Jerry Clower.
Yeah, I know Jerry Clower.
So Jerry Clower's, most of his skits was based around the Ledbetter family. Marcel, anyway, we won't get into that, but at least you know that. That proves you're from the South. Because only a Southerner would know who Jerry Clower is, but he was hilarious. Right. And, he was actually – it's what's cool. I won't digress too bad. He was a Christian man, so his jokes were all clean, right? No cuss words, no anything. And your kids could go listen to him, but he was hilarious anyway. All right. So, Luke, you started out – you're a young man now. And what's impressive about you, first of all, your reputation, and I live in Texas, so I know – who you are from many other people before I ever met you, but you've achieved a lot of success. You're only 30?
Yep, 30.
I mean, I got a daughter that just turned 30 this week. So you're only 30 years old. You've achieved, let's just start from the top. What titles do you have so far? Don't be bashful.
Well, I've titled a bunch of junior hunters and senior hunters, and I got quite a few master hunters. I put a couple dogs in the Master National Hall of Fame. Put a Grand Hunger Retriever Champion title on a dog. I don't know, honestly, offhand of how many of what. I've won probably 20 plus or 30 maybe SRS's events. I've titled a handful of SRS champions. I won SRS Team of the Year 3 years in a row, twice in a row with Indy in 2018 and 19, and then I won Team of the Year in 2020, and that's the same year I won the Crown Championship with Bang, owned by Ernie D'Antoni. And then we've had a pretty good year this year. We've got 9 dogs qualified for the Crown in the Open division, and I think 3 or 4 in the Amateur division. And we've got 2 amateur wins and 4 open wins on this season, and we're about to head north to hit the summer circuit and see how we do. Try to keep it going.
How old were you when you won the Crown?
I was 20 till 5 years ago, 25, 24. I think I was just about to turn 25.
That's insane.
Yeah.
You make me feel like the worst trainer in the world.
I've been blessed to have some good mentors and some good dogs and good people around me. So,
all right, Luke, I got to know this, man. How did you get started? Is your dad a trainer? Did you grow up in a hunting family, or were you one of those folks like me that just loved it and got into it?
Nah, so I've been around dogs my whole life. My dad was an avid hunter, quail hunter, bird hunter, just a wing shooter, and we had pointers. My dad did field trials with English pointers, and then we trained German short hairs. And he was like in our field trial world, he was kind of a professional amateur. I mean, he had 30 dogs that he was training for himself as an amateur, and running them in trials and traveling around. And we ran trials, and I got to do some of the puppy trial derbies with him when I was a kid. And he got runner-up national champion in one of the trials. I don't know what sanction he ran. It wasn't the horseback trials. It was on foot. But he had a dog named Doc that he was real competitive with. We traveled around the country, won quite a bit with him. And so I've been in the competitive side and been in the dogs, and I did a rodeo for a while. So with the horses, and then when I got into college, me and a buddy of mine decided to go dove hunting, and we lost a bunch of dove, and I bought a lab to find my dove and found the hunt test game, and one thing led to another.
Where did you go to college?
I was at Blinn in College Station. I was Blinn team, so Blinn A&M, but Blinn.
And you were in rodeo?
Yep, yeah, I was rodeo. I team rope, calf rope. I rode bulls for a little bit, but my dad called that child abuse and made me set that down, hang the rope. So we got stuck with team rope.
I'm going to use that joke, man. That's pretty funny. I like that. So I had no idea. So I have, even though I've never owned this, I'm about embarrassed to say this on air. I've never owned an English pointer. Man, I'm in the market, and I absolutely love the dog. I appreciate the breed. I always have. I think they're the epitome of the upland gun dog, Tell me a little. I know we're on here about a different reason, but give me a little bit.
I still train pointers nowadays. I still love it.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I like to mess with a few. I like to have a couple at a time, just to keep to my roots and keep myself polished. And where we go in North Dakota is a lot of birds. So my goal is to have me a really nice English pointer, in the next few years that I can go hunt with, and while we're up there, that kind of stuff.
Does your dad, is he still active in it?
Yeah, he's still active. So he's got 2 dogs that are running derbies right now with a guy. He actually put them with a guy named Mike Tracy for the summer in Pennsylvania. He does like the shooting dog. There's still horseback trials, but they're shooting dog trials. His dog won the derby. I think my dad's dog's name's Luke. But he won the derby 2 weeks ago. I think he got second, and then he won one, and then he won another derby a couple weeks ago. So he's qualified for the shooting dog championship with the all age stuff. And he's got a female that's still putting some things together and going to hopefully, get qualified and finish out some derbies this summer.
Man, you got a pedigree yourself, Luke. That's crazy.
Yeah, I got a good pedigree.
Man, you got to do me a favor. And if I have to pay you, that's fine. I've always wanted to horseback hunt. Never done it. I leased a farm up in Kentucky. I was on a lease with some guys in northern Kentucky, and there was a huge fox hunting lodge kind of thing next to this place we leased. But I've never horseback hunted. Except
I've never hunted off horseback either.
You haven't?
No, never hunted. My dad did trials of it. Yeah, we've done it. We've always wanted to do it. It's kind of one of the things we've always wanted to backpack in the mountains and hunt off horseback, or go chase, grouse in the mountains off a horseback, but we just never did it.
I think that'd be so much fun.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I've elk hunted. I had an episode last night with the guy who's horseback hunted, but I elk hunted on horseback in Colorado, but you're not hunting on horseback. You're just getting to the location, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. But these guys in those trials, and I've never witnessed it, I want to do that. They're actually hunting off horseback.
I've never witnessed a shooting dog trial. I don't think so. I think they point, once the dog points, they jump off the horse, they flush the birds and shoot the blank pistol, in the shooting dog trials. The shooting dog, and difference between shooting dog and all age, this is just hearsay. I think is just the distance the dog ranges. You know, the all age that they do, them dogs are miles away. They're just gone, and you're just trying to chase them on horseback. You know, and he's you know, that's probably an eventual goal for my dad, but the trials that he's running right now is called shooting dogs. I'm honestly not 100% educated on it,
Okay.
but they I think it's still horseback trial. I think it's just a little bit shorter on the distance that the dog runs range wise. It's kind of like, it's not, I wouldn't quite compare it to hunt tests and field trials, you know, not difference because it's still a win lose. But I think it's more of a hunting style hunt pattern than just to cover the country like a field trial all age dog, horseback all age dog, like you see at the plantation in Tennessee. You know, when they did Dame's plantation, when they do that, that's a big run and wide open. You better get out of the country and you better be able to find some birds, you know.
So when they're hunting at distance, is that great? Are they allowed to use tracking systems?
Yes, yeah, they can use tracking systems. But from what I understand, I think like the judges have a tracking collar on them as well, and so they can make sure you're not, you know, they have to inspect it so it's not a shot collar. There can't be any prongs of any sort, anything like that. So it makes them feel like it's an electronic collar.
So it's supposed to be a pure GPS.
Yeah.
All right. Now, I'll dial back to the reason I got you on here.
You need to get Randy Anderson on here.
I will, man. I want to learn this stuff.
Randy Anderson's a big all age guy at Oklahoma. He's like the Danny Farmer of our game for his game. You know, he's won a bunch.
Well, you definitely hook us together because I'd love to have a guy like that on here.
Yeah.
All right. Now, Luke, I'm going to get you. Now we're going to talk about the reason I got you here. Man, I don't really know anybody that I've ever had on this show, and this is like, we've only got 27 episodes released, but I've probably got 40 in the bank right now. I've never had anybody as young as you with your success. And I'm a member of the Alamo Retriever Club. I was there this weekend training. Those guys, man, just sing your praises. What makes you so successful? Tell us how you got to where you are.
You know, a lot of it's just blessings. You know, I've been blessed to be in the right place. I've been blessed to have great parents that have raised me to be coachable and be able to learn. I've been in the animal world working with animals, so I've got that kind of knack for working with animals. And I've had some great mentors to mentor me along the way and show me the ropes and coach me to be successful. You know, and so you know, I've always, everywhere I go, I'm looking for an opportunity to learn. And I think, you know, you just got to stay that way. It's a never ending learning thing in this game. And, Amen. You know, so I think you got to just keep that open mind and just go out there. And every time you meet somebody, you just meet somebody we're all dog people. So we all like each other. We all have the same things in common. If we can learn a little bit from each other every time we meet each other, that's just a bonus, you know.
Luke, you know, I'm probably your dad's age. I'm 56. And what you said, I learn every day. And I'm like you, I fooled with dogs since I was a kid. Now, my dad wasn't a field trial guy and stuff like your dad, but my grandpa trained horses and stuff in Kentucky. And I just grew up around dogs and had just fascinated with them. But I still wasn't at your level at 25. I'm not at your level now. So it's, what do you, of all your successes, if you could point to one moment in your life that really changed and got you focused on making this your career, what was it?
When I went to my first junior test, I was in Tennessee Colony at Doc McFarland's place up there. And I had no idea what a hunt test was. I went up there. I didn't know you could do this for a living or anything. I was starched jeans, pearl snap shirt, like I was going to a rodeo. No idea what to expect. You know, the field trials that we ran with pointers, you know, that's how we were. Everybody was starched jeans, pearl snaps. We're all horse guys, you know. So you're on horseback. So that's how you go. So I get there, I show up and everybody's wearing camo. I'm digging through my truck like, I need to wear a camo jacket so I fit in. I'm like, I don't have nothing. I guess I'm just gonna go out there and be sticking out like a sore thumb. And I saw a guy with a big dog trailer with a load of dogs on it. It was best retrievers, and I'm like, what is best retrievers? So I Googled it real fast, and I'm like, man, this dude does this stuff for a living. I'm gonna follow him around and see what he's doing. I heard him say something about Master. I was like, I'm going over to Master. So I went over. It was Rody Best. I went over and watched him run some dogs in Master, and then he came over to me and invited. He was like, where are you from? Invited me to come train with him. And so I went and left after the hunt test. I met up with him the following week or so and trained with him. And we got together and got a few training days in, and I kind of learned what it was about. And you know, me and him kind of had the talk on I wanted to come work for him, and I was willing to learn. And he taught me how to train my dog Colt to the senior level while I was throwing birds for him. And then I kind of went to him one day and was like, "Hey, I'm ready to do this for a career. If I can have a job." And he was like, "Come on."
Wow. He's a great guy. I've met
He
him,
is.
had him
Yeah.
on here, and he's Rody. From my impression of Rody Best, he's always willing to share what he knows. It's not like he's trying to keep it all to himself, and I think that probably helps people be successful, right? They want to share their knowledge because so many people, want to be competitive, and we're all competitive, right? You said you're competitive. I'm competitive, but one thing I've saw about him, talking to him, getting to know him, had him on here, and then getting to know him even more. He seems really willing to share what he knows and help people.
Right.
And you worked for him how long?
8.5 years.
Man, that's a long time.
Yeah, that's a long time.
Yeah.
He was, he's got a master's degree, so he's a very well educated guy. And I was in my sophomore year, or I started working for him my freshman year in college. And he kind of sat me down one day and said, "I know you want to do this for a career, but you need to stick. If you want to stick with your education, stick with your education. I'm not telling you to leave school, but if you do, we'll support you in whatever you do." And I stuck with it for another year, and I was like, "Man, I can't think about nothing but training dogs. I'm ready to do this full time." And so then I signed on with him full time, and I moved out there. I lived in their house for a little bit. I kind of grew with them and their business, and it was a fun time. I enjoyed every second of it.
Nice. You know something though, Luke, I think it takes a lot of guts to do what you did. I was one of these people that went to school and went all through that stuff and went to law school. I almost wish that I even practiced law and then ended up doing something different. Now I'm a landman, right? So I don't even need my degree. So I admire what you did because it takes guts to do that, right? I was always by the book, do everything by the book, by the rules, and I wish sometimes I'd really just done what I loved, and you did. I admire you for that. So, what if you could tell a young person that's wanting to get out and has a really good desire in dogs and wants to train? Maybe they want to train their own dogs. I know you're a pro trainer; that's what you do for a living, and you're daggone good at it. But if somebody wanted to train a dog, Luke, what's your number one piece of advice that you would give them?
Don't be afraid to get educated. When we're in a dog training, people can get pretty egotistical and they think, they've got the best way to do it, or they want to do it their way, or they want to follow this path. They want to stick to this only regimen. Can't be afraid to get educated. You got to, if you want to do it for a living, go work for somebody for a long time. A lot of people want to go work for somebody for 1 year. Well, 1 year training dogs is, maybe one group of dogs. 8 years of training dogs is lots and lots of groups of dogs. It's just like teaching kids. You got to learn all the different personality traits of the dogs. There's not a training program. There's a training approach because it's the practice of dog training, like the practice of medicine. It's always changing. It's changing with every dog. So you're trying to educate yourself on all these different approaches. So when you come across different personalities, even if you're an amateur and you want to have multiple dogs, if you own 5 dogs, probably not all 5 of them are going to have the same personality and be taught the same way. So if you're only willing to learn one way and it may work for your first dog, but if you get stuck on that way, your second dog, it may not work out. And you think you got a bunch of bad dogs because they're not working with your training program, but you've got to just be able to adjust on the fly. So I think you've got to be able to be educated and be open to being coachable and educate yourself and be willing to ask questions is my number one.
Purina Pro Plan. Here at Gundog Nation, we use Purina Pro Plan for our dogs. We actually use the Sport Performance Edition, which is 30% protein and 20% fat, the beef and bison. It contains glucosamine, omega-3s for their joints. It also contains amino acids for muscles and antioxidants. It also has probiotics. It's guaranteed to have live probiotics in each serving. There's no artificial colors or flavors. We see the difference in our dogs. We see the difference in their coat, their performance, their endurance, and also in recovery. Be sure to use Purina Pro Plan dog food. The reputation speaks for itself. There's a reason that Purina has been around for such a long time. We suggest that you use it, and we are so proud to be sponsored by Purina Dog Food. Luke, that says a lot about your character, young man. You're a 25-year-old that won an SRS Crown, but you're yet sitting here at 30 telling young people, don't be afraid to be coached, because you still have that mentality.
Oh, yeah.
That's what makes you great, man. I'm old enough to know that. And I'm old enough to know you're exactly right in what you said. And I approach everything that way. I never am a know-it-all. And I learn every day. I like that. So, Luke, I know that now you've done it all. You've done hunt tests, you've done the grand, and as we talked before we got on the air, now you only run field trials and SRS. Is there a reason why you do that? That is it just yes.
I have, big reason is just the competitive edge, the desire to want to win and do that and continue to push and be better. But for me, I'm always looking to, just like I'm always looking to better myself, I'm always looking to better the dogs. And, I love hunt tests. There's a master hunter is still really hard to obtain a master hunter. I mean, I don't care what anybody says. If a master hunter is a hard dog, especially these dogs that are doing it at a young age and doing all that stuff, it's tough. But as they get older, it's the master hunters, generally it's a guideline. So you're going to see a lot of the same test over and over and over. In a field trial in the SRS, you're constantly trying to get better. You have a 7-year-old that you're trying to make better. You're trying to teach new things to every day. And sometimes with a master hunter dog or a hunt test level dog, sometimes you're staying at that master level and just trying to stay consistent and progress, and fine tune your skills. But the SRS and the field trials can, it gives me something, motivates me to go out there every day and train and try to get better and make the dogs better, whether they're 2 years old or they're 7 years old. We're trying to be the best dog we can be every day. And it's not just to go get that blue ribbon, but, it's to go have that relationship with that dog and bond with that dog to be able to do those things. It amazes me every day that these dogs can do the things that we ask them to do. You watch a 16-month-old dog swim 250 yards across a pond. You're like, that's crazy. It's just insane that these dogs can do all this stuff. Take those hand signals at a long distance. And so, and I think if I was training, even if I'm training gun dogs, we train our gun dogs the same way that we would train a trial dog, because we've all been hunting and you get that long sailor across the pond, and we want our dogs to have that ability to make that big swim and not be afraid of it and go get that duck. If you're out in the bay and you got that cripple that's starting to swim away, you don't want your dog to balk at that big water. We want him to make that swim.
Luke, we've had this conversation months before about a dog that you and I know well, that you have. So your advice to be, say someone had a dog and it was field trial capable, like it was potentially could win a field trial and earn a title, but that person also wanted to hunt. What's your advice to a client who has a dog, they want to hunt, they want to take it with them, but yet they want to achieve that field trial level? Can you do both? And if so, how?
I think you can do both. I think you just got to be smart about your hunts. You can't take a young dog and go put him with 10 guys in a flooded timber blind and shoot 36 ducks and 10 guns going off and expect him to be perfect, and then come back and go understand when we're going to a field trial training. You can't just go do that for 4 months straight with a young dog and then come back and go, okay, now go win a derby. I think you've got to be smart about your hunting. We have a lot of our dogs that do run trials, they do hunt. So when they're going through basics, their owners are going to take them home and they're going to take them on a pothole hunt with their kids, where they're going to sit there and they're just going to work the dog, and the birds are going to be landing the decoys. You're only going to be shooting a couple at a time and teaching the dog how to hunt. And then they're coming back getting their training regimen, during the week. So I think as long as you're smart about, just like we teach basics with the dog in training, we have to teach basics when we hunt. So we simplify all these little drills to teach them to take a right back and a left back and know the difference between left over and a left angle and a left back and a right right over and a coming whistle and a stop whistle and all that stuff. And so same thing goes for hunting. We can't just take a dog just because it's been well trained. It can do all this cool stuff in a training scenario. We can't just go throw it into the hunting environment and start shooting guns over it, knocking birds all down and expect it to be perfect. Our hunting has to start black and white, just like our training does. And as the dog gets better, it's called a started, a seasoned, and a finished dog for a reason. That doesn't mean it's only can run singles, only can run doubles, and then can run triples. Started means inexperienced. Seasoned means, okay, we've started to get some experience under our belt and we can start to do some more complicated things. Finished means, all right, we've had a handful of seasons under our belt. We've seen quite a bit. Now let's go. Every bird across this country, let's go get it,
I like that. That's a great explanation. I have to stop here a second. Luke, it blows me away. I'm sitting here talking to a 30-year-old man. I'm 56, and I've been to dog training schools. I've done protection dogs, Schutzen. I'm trying to get a dog to PSA at this time. I'm doing hunting dogs. Man, it impresses me what you know at your age. I can't get over it. So I say all that because I see a high level of intensity in your personality. Like you're intense, aren't you?
Yeah.
And I like that. Hey, that's not a criticism, man. That shows you're competitive, you're intense. I don't know if that's rodeo background, I don't know if it's just your personality, but I like it. So I'm starting to understand why you're good at what you do.
Yeah, it's part of genetics. My dad's an intense guy. We like to get it. We know we're 100% kind of people. When we go into something, we go in full bore.
Whole hog. That's what we call it.
That's right. Every time we go fishing, we're going to win the Bassmaster Classic. We're not just going fishing.
I like that. You probably don't know how to relax.
That's right. Yeah, not real
I love
good
that,
at
man. Hey, that's so you wouldn't know that about me talking on here, but when I get up from 9 to 5, I'm self-employed. That's how I roll too.
Yeah, just a grind.
Yeah. So this to me, this podcast, Luke, is to have guys like you on here to educate. I know it sounds selfish, but I'm educating myself.
Right.
I hope that the listeners want to know what I want to know, but I'm actually here to learn and listen to people like you that's got more experience and knowledge than I do, and that's the reason I do this. And it's a privilege to me. But so what's the daily schedule like for Luke Coors?
Man, we get up and our shooting light's our starting light. That's kind of how we say it. As soon as it starts to get light, we're in the kennel. We're airing dogs when it's getting light and getting them ready, loaded up, getting them cleaned, everything rocking and rolling, and then we head to the field and we train dog. We try to get 2 field setups in a day, and whether that be 2 marking setups or a marking setup and a blind setup. And then our young dogs will also get a set of drills. I have a really talented assistant trainer. I call him an assistant trainer, but he's really a young dog trainer. His name's Colin White. And he does a really good job with the young dogs. And so he'll usually go and start and do some drills in the morning while we get the big dogs started in the field. Then he'll come out and get the young dogs their 2 marking setups. And if it's not 100 degrees, then we'll go back and get another drill session in or go do some kind of water drill to get the dogs educated on the water, get them swimming, that kind of thing. So we're pretty blessed on how we're set up. We've got a pretty big team. It's me, my wife, Taylor, Colin White, Matthew Lamb, and then we have a guy named Anthony Lacey that helps throw birds and helps with property maintenance and that kind of stuff. So we have the ability to all team up into one group. And then as we finish, Colin will split off and go do some dogs with them on some other things and kind of fine tune them. My wife is focusing on the obedience and stuff back at the kennel. And then we'll kind of all team up. So we can hit every dog from different angles. And we can all 3 put our different approaches on one dog to kind of figure out what's best approach for them. And we can get a lot done in a day. So, we kind of grind through it, but we're not so pressed on time because we have such a big, we have the team that we can relax and we can get our 2 solid setups in a day and get our drill work done and not be pressed to get it done because we're all helping each other. Everybody's taking on their own workload, and we're spreading it out and getting stuff done.
Nice. So when you go to these trials, Luke, how many dogs you usually take with you at a time?
An SRS right now at an SRS, we're limited to 8. So I can only run 8 in the open division. And then I usually will have 3 to 6 run in the amateur division. Ernie D'Antoni, he runs anywhere from 3 to 5 dogs in the amateur division. And then I'll usually have a couple other customers that'll run. Like a lot of the local trials, Rody has a double SRS. And I'll have a lot of my owners, because it's close and they don't have to travel, they'll run a lot of their dogs in the amateur division. So I think this year we had 8 or 9 dogs in the amateur division at Rody's event. So that was a good amateur showing. We had a good time. And
Luke,
a field trial is anywhere from 12.
That SRS so hard.
That's
and how does it compare
to
field trials? Actually, I've never asked that question. How does SRS compare to field trials? Is it the field trial plus?
No, I mean, it's different. It's hard in its own way. An open is hard. I mean, an open all age test is just hard. I mean, it's big, hard, well-placed birds that we throw them the same in an SRS, but you've got guys like Danny Farmer that are showing up with 20 dogs, and all 20 of those dogs are capable of doing it perfect. And I don't mean just going out there and finding the birds. I mean going out there and putting their feet on all 3 of them, or all 4 of them. And so the competition is super difficult at the all-age level. You're looking for the difference between first and a jam can be just a hook to a bird. I mean, it's very, very fine-tuned on what you're looking for. And an SRS, it's difficult because we're throwing plastic birds, so you don't have as much scent on the bird. They still do get wind saves. Sometimes I feel like a hen pheasant's harder to find than a plastic bumper, but it all depends on your conditions and all that, just like any trial. But the SRS is more about the mind blowing. You know, they're kind of blowing the dog's mind. It's kind of like every series is kind of about as crazy of a hunting scenario as you can get, because you're knowing off the marks a lot and running a blind and then coming back and picking them up, simulating you going and getting that cripple bird and then coming back in your marks. But you have a hard field trial test, you have a hard hunt test, then you can do some sort. And the third series it's kind of like there's no rules usually. It can be a big all age level water blind. It can be a hunt savvy. It can be a hybrid of a hunt test and a field trial. It can be a big field trial, or it can be just a regular hunt test. And then the fourth series, you have to have a hunt savvy at some point. Hunt savvy is just the hunting realism, the crazy part. So the SRS isn't so black and white like a hunt test or a field trial is. A hunt test and a field trial, you pretty much know what to train for. You know what to expect. You know where you need to be. And SRS, you just better be solid all the way around. And whatever they throw in your face, you just got to be able to bear down and handle it and stay calm and not get yourself flustered, not get the dog flustered. But so the SRS is just more about the all around, whatever they can throw at you. We have no idea what to prepare for, and just get there and get after it.
So if you were a hunter and you had no plans on competing, but you wanted the best dog you could buy, would you want a dog that's SRS champion, field trial champion, grand? What would you recommend for a guy who wants the number one dog he can have, but he's just going to be a hunter? He's not going to compete.
The titles aren't always the titles don't mean it all. Like Danny Farmer said to me one time, he had a hunt test on his property, and he went and he was marshaling the hunt test for this club, and he was watching the dogs run, and he said, man, a lot of those master hunters could be field champions. And it's not just because they have a master hunter in front of their name or behind their name doesn't mean they're not as good as a field champion. It's just the venue that owner or that trainer decided to take that dog on, and so I can't limit it to a title. I think a grand is really hard. To me, the grand is one of the hardest hunt tests and the most stressful hunt tests I ever ran. SRS is really hard. It's well-rounded, but a lot of those grand dogs can do what the SRS dogs can do. And a lot of the field trial dogs can't do what the grand dogs do because they haven't been trained for it. But I think when it comes to a really good quality, that really, really good grand dog and that really, really good SRS dog, if they would have been with a guy like Danny Farmer, they probably could have been a field champion. It's just that venue that they were in, And so to me, the title doesn't necessarily mean as much as the dog itself. And so I've seen dogs that have run hunt tests that you look at them, you go, man, that dog needs to be in a field trial. And I've seen dogs that are in field trials, you're going, that dog is probably better off in a hunt test, but they're still a good field trial dog, So it's hard to say based on the title. I would say it's about the dog's demeanor and the temperament and kind of what your style is you're looking for,
So I've heard from a couple guys.
That's my politically correct answer.
No, I like that. I like that. I knew you were dodging my question, as I'm a lawyer and I'm the expert at that stuff. No, but I appreciate that. It actually helps me. I've heard from a lot of experts that know way more than I do. If you're looking for a pup that you want to be a rock star, find one that the sire is a field champion, an FC, and the dam is a grand.
It's a good balance. It's a good mix.
You agree? I've heard a lot of guys like you, who I respect, I respect you in your opinion. I've heard a lot of guys say that. Is that your advice too?
For me, I'm all about the female. Like a lot of the really good dogs I own, and I mean, including your dog Holland, we picked her based off the female, not necessarily based off the male. And so I like to get to know a female. Like there's a dog named Harley that I'm running, owned by Ernie D'Antoni, and I have a dog named Maze. Well, when Ernie got Harley, I really liked Harley, but I knew Nike, the mom, before I knew Harley. And I told Tracy White, I said, whenever I want a puppy out of her, whenever you got one available, I don't care who you breed her to. I want a puppy out of her. Ernie's got a dog named Maddie. We picked that puppy from the female named Breeze 4 years before they even bred her. We just liked that female. So to me, I generally pick the female. And then I don't really care who they breed it to. If they, now if they go breed it to somebody that's known throwing for some genetic health issues or something, then I'm probably going to back off on that. But as long as they're breeding to a male that's healthy and is known for throwing healthy dogs, for me, I put more weight on the female than I do the male generally. So
Luke, percentage wise, if you put a percentage of importance on the female, what would you put that at? 75, 25?
Oh, it's so hard to say, but I would say probably 60-40 realistically, because there's some of those males that really throw themselves, like that Clooney dog, Seaside's Gorgeous George. He's really been known. You could, you probably breed him to a fence post and make a field champion. There's dogs like that just really throw themselves. But it's more often you're not going to get quite exactly like the male. And I think a lot comes from the mother. But a lot of it comes from, Kristen Best, Rody's wife, says, close your eyes, pick a litter, not a puppy, Just find you a litter, find a female you like, pick the puppy and raise them the way you want them to be raised. And, that's generally going to be your best bet.
I'll show this, and I agree with you and your assessment too. There's 2 male dogs of all the podcasts I've done that I feel like can throw themselves. I think the Floyd dogs.
Yeah.
I've hunted with other Floyd. I've got a Floyd dog. I've hunted with other Floyd dogs. And I've talked to other Floyd dog. He's got a lot of pups out there, obviously, right? Because what he does.
Yeah, because
my dog looks just like Floyd. Like they look like clones. Another one example of that. But I'm still like you. I'm still a female guy. The female's what's most important to me. But I've had the world champion coon dog on here, who's from my hometown. Casey Maggard, 2024 UKC world champion. The sire of that dog is Gray's Rackham Willie from the next town over from me in Manchester, Kentucky, just 20 miles down the road. That dog is a UKC, AKC world champion and has thrown literally hundreds of champions. And that dog seems to reproduce himself more than anything. No matter what he's bred to, I've never seen anything like it. Right. But that's kind of the exception in my experience, not the norm. Yeah.
Yeah. Like you had Lean Mac back in the day, Floyd is one of the hot ones, and Fox. Some people are hit or miss on Fox, Lauren Hayes' dog Fox. Every Fox puppy I have had has been great,
Really?
And so I've liked them all. I haven't had one that I haven't liked. Some of them, some people say that, oh, they're noisy. I've only had one that had noise as a young dog, but he doesn't make that noise as often anymore. You don't really see it unless you're shooting the gun over him like HRC style. But still, even then, he's usually pretty quiet.
What about Floyd dog experiences? What have you seen?
I have a female. I have a female right now. Her name's BB. That she's out of Floyd, and she's a super talented. She's a lot of dog. She's out of a kid named Michael Cotton's breeding, and she's. I mean, it's hard to hide the birds from her. I think she's 17 months old, maybe 18 months old, something around there. And we got.
She might be a litter mate to my dog.
She's out of Glock. Michael Cotton's dog Glock.
I have to look.
Black female.
My female on my side's not that strong, which kind of worried me. But I got mine up in South Dakota.
No, this one would have been, you would have got him from Rody because Michael worked for Rody at the time when he bred the dog.
Okay, different then. Okay.
And so she's hard to hide the bird from her, but she's got so much drive. We've got to push her harder than we've got to push the rest of the young dogs because we've got to hone her in and make her think a little bit more. Because you just go throw her doubles every day, she's going to go step on them every day, all day. But you go to run her in a derby, she gets a little too excited, she gets a little noisy, she gets a little cheaty. So we kind of have to back off on the trials and increase the training, so to try to better her for the future.
Now my dog's not noisy, and he's intelligent, like he's a thinker.
Yeah. But
he's so amped up. It's like, steadiness for him. And it's the way I bought him. I bought him in 8 months. He'd been running pheasants in South Dakota. Wow.
Right.
Yeah. So it's really the only issue he's got steadiness, and that's something I got to work on. But
yeah, we know the way we approach steadiness is train and get in there, get them thinking. A lot of guys get a crazy dog. They want to put pressure on the dog on the line to make them sit. We try to take the approach on put more work involved. If they're every day's a fun bumper, then it's going to be exciting every day. So we're going to try to make training harder, make it harder for them to find those birds, make it harder for them to get there, to put them more mentally thinking while they're on the line. They don't just get to sit there, see a bird and go get it. They've got to sit there and kind of think about, okay, when he sends me, what am I going to do? How do I get that bird the best,
Hello, this is Kenneth Witt, and Gundog Nation is proud to have one of their sponsors as Retriever Training Supply, based in Alabama. Retriever Training Supply offers fast shipping on quality gear. Your dog will love it. Visit retrievertrainingsupply.com to purchase gear to help you train your retriever. Listen, they have some of the best leashes I've ever found. It's stuff's made in America. Their leashes are, and they source them locally. They have anything you want, fast, friendly service, fast shipping, just good people. Retriever Training Supply. what's your season? You said you go up north and train. Is it because of the heat? You try to get out of the Texas heat and train where it's a little easier and you've got more hours in the day?
Yeah, we go up to Velva, North Dakota. We go up there at the beginning of June, and then we'll stay up there as late as we can stay. But it always falls around where depends on the Crown Championship. The later the Crown Championship is, the longer we stay. This year, the Crown Championship's at the beginning of October, so we'll probably come back early September to get the dogs reacclimated to some warmer weather. Because it starts getting cold in North Dakota around September. I don't say cold. For us, it's cold. For them, it's still summertime, But the weather's a lot, better than it is down here. And then we've got some great grounds. We get to see our dogs, get to see some new things and some, we've got hundreds of thousands of acres to train on up there. So our dogs get to see new stuff every day. We're very rarely training the same field every day. And then it gives our grounds in Texas a break. They don't get stale to our water. They come back and it's a fresh look at all of our ponds, a fresh look at our place. So they kind of forget all the birds we've been throwing for the last few months, and it's a fresh ground. So you get a fresh start. It's almost like a reset both times when you go north and when you go south, so it's really refreshing for the dogs.
So when you're there, are you training on public lands or?
No, we have, I have a family member that's got some land up there. My aunt and uncle have some land up there that we use as our base grounds. And then I've just been blessed to meet some farmers that have got a lot of hay fields and we get on that Onyx app and they say, if you see my name on there, you're welcome at it. Go drive around and find you a place. And then, Ed Sin up there with Minot Retriever Club. We train with him. We train on the Minot grounds a little bit. Occasionally they've got some tech water that we train on. And then him and Doreen Bristol, they'll come and do some day training with us and they'll join us. We'll meet in a field together and help each other train and get after it. And but a lot of hay fields, rolling fields. We get some buck brush, some brushy stuff, some good water. We've got a little bit of mix of everything. But we've probably got, land-wise, we've got endless amounts of land. And then we have our base kind of, handful of ponds that we hit on water. Cattails are a big problem up there, but we've got them cleared out pretty good.
Nice. So when are you heading out? Are you in Texas still?
We're in Texas now. We'll head out May 30th. So next Friday we'll roll out and make the trip up there. And it'll probably be the highs will probably be mid to low 60s. Lows will be in the 40s when we get there. And then, July, as we get through June and July, it'll be, we'll get some hot days. July, like the first 2 weeks in July is kind of really summery. We'll get some 90-degree days, but it cools off down to 50 every night. So the dogs get that break from the heat. We start off, the water cools off. We've got cool water every morning, that kind of thing. And then August comes around and starts cooling back off again. It's in the 60s and pretty much the whole time.
When it's horrible here.
Yeah. When it's 110 here, we're wearing hoodies and pants.
Nice. Man, I need to follow you around.
That's right.
I'm too fat for this hot weather. So now when you're up there and you're training in the north to avoid the heat, I assume there's a lot of hunt tests and trials and stuff going on all in the northern states.
There is. It's a little bit more spread out than we are down here. And, in Texas, we're in the Mecca. There's like March and April, there's a hunt test going on every single day.
Every weekend. Yeah.
I mean, and in the midweek. I mean, it's just crazy.
Yeah.
So we're a little bit more spread out. We run probably 2 trials a month for the 3 months that we're there. So we run, we'll run 3 SRSs while we're up there, and we'll probably run 5-6 field trials. And so we're kind of at the 2 to 3 trials / SRSs a month. We kind of try to go every other weekend. So we go weekend of trials, weekend off, weekend of trial, weekend off. Because we're doing a lot of traveling. We got to kind of chase the trials. Sometimes they're in Minnesota, sometimes they're in South Dakota, sometimes they're in North Dakota, sometimes they're in Montana. So you have to do a lot of driving around to hit the trials that work for our schedule. In Minnesota, you can stay in Minnesota and run trials every weekend, but when you're mixing in the SRSs, sometimes that blocks a trial where you got to skip one trial, and the next one you have a weekend off is all the way over here, so we've got to go run it to be able to run it.
Look, I'm gonna pick your brain. I'm gonna dial back on another topic, because I won't know this for my own well-being, and you're the guy to ask. When you're assessing a young dog, pup, 8, 10, maybe 4 months, and I know enough to know that you don't know what a dog's going to be exactly at 4 months, but you got a good idea. What does Luke Coors look for in a young dog that age for potential? If you had a litter of pups and you want to keep a pup out of that litter or hold 4 or 5 dogs back to see which one, what do you look for?
When it comes to an 8-week-old puppy, I'm a pick a litter, not a puppy kind of guy. I pick a litter. and then raise the puppy how we want to raise it.
Okay.
Biggest thing I look for is work ethic. You got to have retrieve drive, obviously, because it's just what we do. If you don't have retrieve drive, it's just not going to happen. So retrieve drive is always number one, but that's kind of a gimme in our game. But work ethic is my biggest deal. A dog that wants to please, you start working with treats and a clicker, and that dog will stare you into the soul because they want to work for a treat. They're willing to jump on and off place and do everything really quickly. You can kind of see which ones really, really want to work and want to please you and want to be with you, versus the ones that would rather go chase the sticks and the grasshoppers and not want to be around you. We do a lot of our puppy training off leash because we want the dog to know that this is where you get paid. You work with me, you get rewarded. And so we're using treats and a clicker, nonverbal cues to get that dog to learn to work for us and work with us. So you can usually tell pretty quick at that 4-month-old stage is which one really wants to work with you and which one doesn't. If they go chase the sticks and the grasshoppers, it's not a deal breaker. But for me, the ones you get really excited about is the ones that as soon as they come out of the kennel, they're sitting in front of you and staring you into the eyes and saying, "What do you want me to do next?" That's kind of the first clue for me on we've got a chance here.
Okay, so we'll call that phase one. And then once you've been training, let's say 4, 5, 6 months down the road, you're starting to see, and forgive my ignorance, right? Marking, stuff like that, reaction to hand signals, hunting ability. In phase two, when do you start what dog sticks out to where you weed the others out? You're like, all right, man, this dog's got something different.
Water attitude generally is going to be number one for me. A lot of dogs we can teach them how to mark on land. We can teach them to run to an area of the fall using their eyes and then hunt for a bird to do it. Obviously some are better than others. Some dogs just can't mark, and some dogs can really mark. But water is kind of where the rubber meets the road, and you kind of separate the men from the boys, and you figure out which ones have got a good water attitude. And at a young age, you can tell which ones are looking for a place to get out and which ones are looking to get to the bird. I like to see a young dog before we've done swim by that just naturally wants to swim all the way to the bird. If you have a dog that before swim by and they hit the water and the first thing they do is being land-eye dominant, looking for land, seeking land, how to get out and run around. Sometimes that can be from improper exposure. Sometimes you can have somebody that's started the dog and they've let them run around the pond to get to the bird, so it's not their fault. But if the dog has been started with a good solid foundation and they've been put in the water properly and their intent is to go to the bird and not worry about how to get around it is what we like to see.
I like that. You taught me something new. So you're looking for cheaters, right? Dogs that cheat, it's not your favorite. If they cheat naturally, not because it's a training error, but if they cheat naturally, want to cheat
naturally, right. If they've been exposed to the right foundation and they've been introduced to the water properly and they still want to cheat, then you start to kind of, we need to back off these watermarks. We need to get through swim by. We need to start putting some the ability to work on certain things and grasp a concept. Dogs see in pictures. So if I have a dog that's naturally wanting to be cheaty, when I can get in swim by, they'll start to see that channel pond when we're doing swim by, and they know to swim across it back and forth, and they can see that picture. And then when that relates to a mark or a blind, they start to, if they can pick out that picture and go, oh, okay, when I hit the water, I got to swim down this line to get the bird. That can still connect, and still a cheaty dog can still come around and end up being a good dog in the water after they've been through basics. But sometimes you've got to back off of your water marking and focus on your basics a little bit more so you're not creating too many bad habits.
Wow. Man, I want to pause this and take notes, but we're going to keep going forward. I like this. So that's what we call phase two. Now, let's go 6, 8 months down the road. You're getting these dogs in more advanced training, whatever that may be, and you can educate me on that. And now you're starting to say, okay, now, man, I've seen what this dog can do. This dog's field trial potential. This dog's SRS Crown potential. When does that, and maybe that's at 2 years. I don't know that answer. When does that take place? When do you usually make that decision?
It all depends on the dog, just like everything. But right around that 3-year-old mark, you can kind of start to see all the light bulbs starting to connect, everything starting to click. That dog that auto swings into heel and auto locks in onto the next mark, that has the desire to show memory. I think all dogs have some sort of memory, but some of them avoid it. Some of them come back and they go, oh, Now I got to go get that bird way out there. I'd rather not, but then you have some of them that are swinging out 5 yards in front of you and backing in to see the next bird because they know they want to go get it. That's what I really like to see. I like to see those dogs that are already doing that first look on their own. We don't have to make them have that first look. They swing around and they're looking in the right spot. They're telling you where they want to go next. And so that's where that work ethic comes in. Those dogs that have that work ethic as a puppy are generally those dogs that come around when we start throwing multiple marks and they swing around, they whip around and they go, okay, that's where our eye contact turns into eye contact out in the field. When we get them focused on us at puppies, it teaches them to focus, teaches them to be locked on. So then when we throw a mark, they spin around and they lock on and they know how to stay locked on. And then those are the dogs that know how to go get them.
Let me ask you this. So does work ethic, let's say we got a pup, like you said, that's got that high work ethic and it's carried on through a year old or two. Does that high work ethic automatically mean, hey, I got the next field champion?
I don't think it automatically means it, but if they don't have it, it probably automatically means they're not going to be one.
Gotcha. Okay.
I always talk about, you'll hear me say Rody best a lot because I worked for him for 8.5 years. And so he's my mentor. I've had him and Danny Farmer and a lot of other mentors that have taught me a lot. But when I was growing up and learning through the basics and learning how to tell what dog has what, we've had dogs that when we were running hunt tests that I'd be like, man, that dog's not going to make it. And Rody'd be like, that dog's got the work ethic to learn. That dog wants to learn. And sure enough, Rody turned into a master hunter, master national Hall of Fame when you're looking at that 6-month-old going, there ain't no way that dog is ever going to learn this. But the dog had the desire to learn and was able to work with him and create and get there. So because the dog's not that superstar right at the beginning, that work ethic and that relationship can usually exceed, overcome that lack of talent at the beginning. They may not be the perfect dog right there at the beginning, but if they have that work ethic and that desire to work with you, that can usually turn into talent through reps.
That makes a lot of sense because, my brother's in the country music business and I won't name names, but there's country music artists that I know actually from in the region where we're all from, East Tennessee, East Kentucky, and who wasn't maybe necessarily the most talented artist, but he's one of the most successful. And it's because of work ethic. So, and I think that trait falls over to humans, dogs. So that makes a lot of sense, man. You're really causing some light bulbs to click on over here in my eyes, but interesting. I like that. So we've talked about what breedings you like to see. The female is important to you. I agree. I 100% agree with that and always have. We don't want a deadbeat male, obviously.
Right.
Do you, and Luke, I know you have a huge business and rightfully so. I'm a customer. Are you all breeders too? Or are you just trainers? You take pups from good breedings and train them, or do y'all have a breeding program?
Well, I have, I wouldn't say we have a breeding program. I have, a couple of females that I train that will put breedings together for some customers and do a whelping service. And then I have a female of my own that will probably breed eventually. Maze, you heard me talk about her earlier. She's pretty strong. We'll probably breed her to a dog named Army in the fall, who is Holland's dad. And so we'll probably breed her to Army this fall. We tried last fall, but we didn't hit the timing right, and it didn't take. It was on our fault. We were worried about getting ready for the Crown and not worried about getting her bred, and we missed it. But I think we hit it a couple of days late. But we'll try it again probably this fall if she doesn't come in the heat at the wrong time because she's qualified for the Crown Championship again. And so we'll probably try to breed her this fall, and then we have some customers that do some breedings that will whelp.
How old is she? Your female?
She's 5. She just turned 5 in February.
Now I'm going to ask you a politically incorrect question. Do you have a color preference in labs?
My first dog that got me started was a yellow dog named Colt. And so I tend to be leaning more towards the yellow dogs, but Maze is a black dog. I'd say my favorite color is blue. So whichever ones can have the work ethic and the desire, doesn't matter to me what color they are. But I tend to lean more towards yellow. If I see a really good yellow dog, brightens my eye a little bit more than a really good black dog.
It's funny, man. It's funny. We all have our little quirks. I'm the opposite, and I have more yellow dogs than black, but I love black, and I'm glad I got Holland right from you.
Yeah.
But I love black dogs. I don't know why, but my Floyd dog, is yellow. and I've got a yellow. So I have mostly, except for the dog I have with you and Floyd, most of my dogs are British.
Right.
So let's dive on that little topic real quick. We know obviously you've trained different breeds, pointers and retrievers. Have you trained many British dogs?
I've worked with a few that are partially British. They're maybe come from the other side of the pond, and then they've got mixed with some American lines.
Okay.
And I've worked with a couple dogs that were 100% British from, I can't remember that. There's a big breeder in the United States that does. I cannot.
So there's
remember.
Wild Rose Kennels and Southern
Wild
Oak
Rose.
Kennels. Too big.
Wild Rose. I worked with when I was with Rody. We trained a lot of dogs to like the junior senior level that were at a Wild Rose Kennels. That that's all their owners wanted to do. Not that the dogs couldn't do that. It's just their dog. The owner's end goal was a senior level dog to go hunting. So we trained quite a few of those, but I haven't worked with them enough on the higher end level to really have a true opinion or evaluation of them. I haven't. Okay. I'm not experienced firsthand with them beyond the junior hunter level very much.
Okay. Fair enough. Yeah. And I like both. I like my British dogs. I'm a big fan. But I obviously like some American dogs too. And I've got my opinion. I won't air that out here, but I like both. And
right.
It depends on what you want for a pet, I think. So
yeah.
At your kennel right now, you have anything other than retrievers that you're working on?
I do. We have a couple pointers that we do. We have a breeder named Tom Bowman. He's got champion gun dogs. He's out of Texas, and he's got some really nice short hairs that we work with that excel at the retrieving side as well as pointing. We have some dogs that if a dog comes from his breeding, they have a pretty high % chance of being able to complete our gun dog program as a retriever, more so than some other ones that we've worked with. So we generally will have a handful of pointers from Tom Bowman's breeding facility that will come through that we work with.
Any English pointers out there?
I think he maybe has a couple, but I'm not 100% familiar with it. For if he has an English pointers, most of the dogs that we work with that come from him are short hairs. Okay. And then my dad's more of the English pointer guy.
I was going to say, is your dad allow you to have German short hairs on the property?
Yeah, we had him growing up. His hunting dogs were short hairs, and his field trial dogs were English pointers. Then he kind of started to hunt English pointers towards the end, and then he's just kind of stuck with English pointers ever since.
Coming from East Kentucky, you're a coon dog man. If you're a walker guy, you don't have a red bone, right? If you're a red bone man, you're not a blue tick man. It's serious business. Like that's right. So so you guys are diverse. You have diversity out there.
Yeah, we do.
Like we do. So, but do you compete with your pointers, or you just train?
No, I don't. We just train them for hunting dogs, And I only work with like what I'm light on, retrievers, or I'll kind of always reserve 1 or 2 spots for pointers that I just for, and like we like to take them up north because after July 15th, I believe, in North Dakota, you can put them on wild birds. And so we can road them. A lot of guys do it on horseback, or we do it on four-wheeler, or we'll do it on foot. And you can put a dog on covey after covey after covey of sharp tail and huns and pheasants. And you can get a dog about as bird finding machine as they can get in North Dakota. And towards the end of the summer, when you can start putting them on the prairie and chasing wild birds, it's an incredible experience for the dogs, and it's a lot of fun. We'll go out and we'll take the 2 or 3 dogs that we take with us. We'll go out every evening and put the dogs on some birds every evening and get them going and run them. We do their drill work and stuff in their yard work in the morning, and then in the evening when it starts to cool off again, the birds are starting to kind of move around. We'll go put them on some birds and just flush and point and let them just find birds. It's a lot of Hungarian partridges, mostly what we're putting them on.
Oh man, we got to talk after the show about that.
Yeah, it's fun.
That's my new passion. It's going to be anyway. If you ever run your retrievers upland hunting? I know you're a pro trainer, and I know you probably love to hunt deep down. Do you get to hunt any?
I do some, not as much as I used to. I've never upland hunted with a retriever. I've only, I grew up with a dad that had pointers that we quail hunted. We had, back when there was quail in Texas, we quail hunted a lot behind a pointer. And so we didn't ever even think to use a lab for upland hunting. I didn't start getting into retrievers till I was in high school and college. And it was just when I started to get the waterfowl bug.
The only thing I've upland hunted with my labs is pheasant,
Right.
and in South Dakota, and they
Right.
seem to work perfect for that situation. Just because you're running cornfields and they hunt close,
Yeah.
and when they flush, they're not that far away to shoot.
Yeah, a lot of guys like flushing dogs, pointers, or flushing dogs like a spaniel or a lab for pheasant hunting up in North Dakota as well. Some guys use pointers, but a lot of guys use labs to get in those cattails and stuff.
Yeah, you just opened the door for what I was going to ask you. Have you ever trained any cockers?
I have. I've worked with a few field cockers, not a whole lot, but they're fun. They're a fun dog. They're cool.
Yeah. That's I think that might be my next venture. Funny, Luke, I've had so many people on here. Actually, Rody was on here, right? And
yeah,
you ask you about his cocker and he lights up. I had a big old dude here from North Carolina. He trains dogs. He's taking a draught to the Grand, and he got a pass.
Wow!
I think it's the only time it's ever happened. And he's a big old dude, Landon Poplin. He's a guide out at the plantation, North Carolina. Good guy. He's got labs. He's got the draught, and then he's got a cocker. It's funny. This big old dude, when he talks about his cocker, he just lights up and smiles, and he's like, he said on the podcast, man, I could be having the worst day, be in the worst mood, throw that cocker out and take off. And he said, it just changes my outlook. So it's funny. Everybody that I talk to smiles when they say the word if they own one. Do you see that a lot?
Yeah, cockers a lot of times are the definition of work ethic. They're little bitty fireballs that they want to work. They just want to go do something. They don't care what it is. They'll go flush. They'll go retrieve. They'll go jump in the water. They'll go run through some cover. They're the definition of work ethic. They're just a little ball of fire. They got a lot of heart. And so everybody that likes a dog, if you got a cocker that's got some drive, they're just fun,
Man, I've got to show you when I get off here. I got to send you some videos. So I had Ben Randall on here from England, super trainer, has his own. He's a rugby player and kind of took some of his rugby skills or training skills. I won't bore you with all that, but it's worth listening to. The guy's has a really neat method. Sends me some videos of his cockers, and I mean these. How Malinois can go jump a fence like 8-foot fence or something.
Right.
His cockers will run and jump a fence like a 6-foot fence. They'll hit like 3 posts and keep going up it, go over it, go over another one. He showed me this today actually, and then retrieve a bird, come back with it in its mouth. It's been shot. Not no throw bird, a live shot bird, come over 2 fences with that bird in its mouth, and the bird's as big as the dog is. I mean, it's unbelievable. I was just like, man, that's just insane. So you got to love it, right? I mean,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
But no, especially a guy like you that appreciates your work ethic, and that's what you look for, those dogs. It's kind of like, Luke, I spend a little time in the blood tracking world. I train blood tracking dogs, labs, and blue lacies.
Yeah.
And man, I've had hunt terriers and stuff that just had drive off the charts, kind of like a cocker. But anyway, it's neat. I'm like you. I love it. I love to see that drive in any kind of hunting dog. That's the thing you can't train, right?
Right. That's right.
The best trainer in the world.
Just like people too. People are the same. You got to, you finding somebody with a good work ethic's hard to do.
Yeah, you can't. That's DNA right there, right? You can't train work ethic, and that's the same with the hunting dog. Look, man, I know you've got a hectic schedule, and I'm always trying to track you down. And a lot of times we've not been able to get on because it's my fault too, because I'm self-employed. But I don't want this to be our last podcast, and I don't want our last conversation because you and I have a business relationship with a dog, and I'm very pleased about that, and I appreciate you giving me that opportunity. But if people want to find Luke Cour, if they want to get a dog trained, if they want an SRS dog, if they want a field trial dog, if they want just a really good lab hunting dog, how do they find you?
We have a website, coursretrievers.com. We're on Facebook. We have an Instagram, but we don't do a whole lot on Instagram. I just kind of forget about it. But Facebook is Facebook, and then our website, and you can find our phone number or email on our website. It's going to be the easiest way to contact us.
Okay. All right. Well, Luke Cour, it's been a pleasure having you on here, man. I've been a fan from a distance for a long time. We still haven't got to meet in person, We've been
That's
close.
right.
I was actually some hunt tests up there in your back door, but we're going to fix that soon.
That's right.
Soon,
That's
actually,
right.
I probably wait to get back to North Dakota. But man,
Come up to North Dakota, enjoy the weather.
Yeah. I'll be in South Dakota. I run up there in September and take a dog. My buddy, who's a hunting guide, pheasant guide, he runs some dogs. He runs my dogs until I go up and hunt. But I'll go up there twice. But you'll be in North Dakota, which is a little further up. But anyway, thank you so much, Luke. It's been a privilege having you on here. I thank you for taking the time to be on here. And I hope this isn't our last podcast.
Yeah, me too. I've enjoyed it. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
All right. You have a good one, and I'll be talking to you later.
Yes, sir.
When you're getting ready to go on your next hunting trip, make sure you pack the most efficient and reliable ammunition on the market. Migra Ammunition brings you the most diverse loads on the market. Migra's patented stacked load technology is the epitome of efficiency. 2 shot sizes stacked together to create the most diverse and efficient line of shot shells in the industry. It doesn't matter what flyway, what state, or what the weather, the standard remains the same. At Migra, reliable loads that perform in any condition every single time. We're proud to have Migra Ammunition as a sponsor for Gun Dog Nation.